Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Monday, the 22nd day of Menachem. Let's begin with tzedakah. Gedoyle tzedakah shemekarev zesageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. And today we're learning the second half of the letter 6 in Agerat Hakodesh. The Alter Rebbe talks about, this is a letter again about tzedakah. And as we said, the Alter Rebbe gives us the deeper understandings, the mystical teachings, and guidance in serving Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe speaks about the verse in the Proverbs that says, "Eireya tzedakah secher emes." When you plant tzedakah, the reward is truth. And we spoke about it yesterday. We asked a number of questions. What does it mean the reward is truth? What does it mean planting tzedakah? And the Alter Rebbe started by explaining the attribute of mercy, that is the attribute of Yaakov. It says, Titen emes liYaakov, you give truth to Yaakov. And we explained what is the idea, the attribute of mercy. That mercy is an attribute that reaches, has no bounds, no boundaries, is able to reach to have mercy. You can have on something that is very far from you, distant from you. And this is the attribute of Yaakov. And we get from Yaakov that attribute to serving Hashem with mercy. And the Alter Rebbe will now explain what that means. And so he explains that there is serving Hashem. You can serve Hashem with love and fear that is generated by your own contemplation, understanding, and godliness, because that's how the emotions develop. When you understand something, it develops into emotion, love and fear and so on. However, whatever you develop on your own is very limited, and it cannot be called the ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is something that is not bound, it's not limited with your limitations. So the Alter Rebbe says there's the two types of serving Hashem. There's the love and fear that is generated by humans, and then there is the love and fear of Hashem that is gifted to us from above. To reach that love and fear of Hashem, how do we get there? So it says, number one, when you have after you have the first level of love, you develop within yourself, you can have as a gift from above that Hashem gives you that feeling of the greater love that Hashem reveals upon you. In order to awaken this kind of love, it is, Alter Rebbe says, two things. It is by awakening that attribute of mercy, as we spoke yesterday, thinking about having mercy and that godly soul that went down all the way to the bottom, and that awakens a feeling of mercy inside us, and it reaches up into the higher levels. However, even that also needs to be truthful. And how can you be certain? How can you be certain that this feelings that you have is a real truthful feelings? There is a story, they say, there was once a chassid came to the Rebbe, I think it was the Rebbe Maharash or the Rebbe Rashab, one of the Lubavitch Rebbes. And he complained, he says, Rebbe, I go to synagogue, I pray, but I feel I'm not doing it truthfully. I don't, he feels he's doing it, but it's not really with an emes. I think I'm lying to myself. I'm not really doing it truthfully. I have the ulterior motives or whatever. And then he says, and what I'm telling you right now, complaining right now, also is not truthfully. It also doesn't come from within me. And he repeated this a few times until he fainted. And the Chassidim said, but this time, that was truthful. That came, you reached the truth there. So, to reach the truth, says the Alter Rebbe, we need Hashem's blessings. We need God. God is the only one that has the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth of our heart. And therefore, we need to elicit that truth. How do you do this? The Alter Rebbe says, tzedakah does that. Why tzedakah? Because tzedakah, giving charity, is the only mitzvah that can be done truthfully. Every other mitzvah, you're doing a mitzvah, you have to invest yourself. It's all how you are doing the mitzvah. Are you really doing the mitzvah with a truthful understanding and feeling, or you're doing it for yourself? The mitzvah of tzedakah, when you feed somebody else, someone who doesn't have, it doesn't matter what you feel. It matters that that person receives it, and that person receives it truthfully. So therefore, the mitzvah of tzedakah, when you give from yourself to someone else, or whatever cause you give, that is a truthful mitzvah that reaches the truth, and that is triggers, as we said yesterday, there is whatever we do here, there is a corresponding effect up in heaven. Hashem is like our shadow. Whatever we move, it moves up there. So we move something truthful here, it moves something up there as well. So let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says. Now it is well known that there are two types of awe of God and two types of love of God. The first one, the first ones are born of an understanding and cognition of the greatness of Hashem, the greatness of God, and of those matters that lead to the love of God and to the fear of Him, such as God's closeness to the Jewish people. That is the first type of love. The latter ones are those that come afterward from above as a gift. It is a gift that Hashem gives us, that feeling of closeness to Hashem, the feeling of love. As explained elsewhere in comment on the verse, I shall grant you your priestly service as a gift. So the priestly service, the service of the Cohen, is service of love. Shehi midas ava. The priesthood refers to the attribute of love, and that is given as a gift. And it is likewise with regard to awe, meaning there is a degree of fear of God that is likewise granted as a gift from above. Now, says the Alter Rebbe, there is a great, it's not something that you get automatically from the first type of love to the second type of love. There is no comparison between these two types of emotions. There is surely no comparison between the first ones, the lower levels of love and fear, which are the product of the created intellect, and the latter ones, which are a gift from the Creator, blessed be His name. So just as there can be absolutely no comparison between the Creator and the created, so can there be no comparison between the love and fear generated by each of these two levels. That is why it is these, the latter degrees of love and fear, that are referred to as truth. That is the ultimate truth. It is not a fake love. And again, talking about fake love, we're not talking about real fake love. Yeah, you love Hashem, but is it ultimate truth? Or is it something you have your feeling, the way you understand, the way you appreciate it, and so on? But when we're talking getting a gift from Hashem, that love that we receive as a gift from Hashem, that is ultimate truth. Because Hashem is truth. For the seal of the Holy One, blessed be He, is truth. Shehu emes ha'amiti, v'chol ha'emes shel benivroim kelo chashiv v'kamei. For He is the true truth, and in relation to Him, all truth among created being is considered as nothing. So since God is absolute truth, the love and fear that emanate from Him are deemed truth as well. So now the question is, how do we get to that truth? How do we get to serve Hashem with this truth? But which is the way whereby a man can merit the loftier love and fear that are termed the truth of God? As the Alter Rebbe, this is by awakening, arousing compassion on the godly soul, on the godly spark. It is by arousing great compassion in God's eyes for the spark in his soul. This attribute of compassion is the attribute of Jacob, who bolts from one end through the other. As we said before, yesterday, the idea of compassion, the concept and attribute of compassion is something that has no limits. You can develop a feeling of love to something that you have a connection to. You can love a spouse, you can love a child. You don't develop a feeling of love to a little ant that crawls on the floor. You can have compassion in it. You can have compassion on something which is you don't love. Even a criminal. See a criminal suffering, you still have compassion. You're not going to have love for him if you don't know him, if you don't have no connection to him, but you can still have compassion. So compassion is something that breaks through the barriers, goes from one end to the other end. And this is also, it says, in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle in the desert, there was the three beams that connected all the vertical beams that were standing, making up the walls of the tabernacle. So the walls of the tabernacle were vertical beams standing, and with three beams going horizontally. So two of them were connected on the outside only from each wall separately. And then in the middle of the beams there was a hole, and there was a beam going through all three walls. It was a miraculous thing. It went through like a snake, bending inside and going through all three walls. And that beam represents Yaakov, goes from one end to the other. So that attribute of mercy, awakening the mercy, is you can have mercy also on the highest level of the godly spark that goes down to the lowest place in this world, in our body. That is from the uppermost of all levels to the nethermost, causing the truth of God to flow to this lowly dark world. As As it is written, when I sit in darkness, God is a light unto me. And this is the meaning of the phrase, for his kindness has prevailed over us. And then after that it says, Ve'emes Hashem la'olam, and truth of God is forever. So this is how we are able to awaken the truth. Now, however, says the Alter Rebbe, we have a little problem. To awaken the truth, it is by awakening the mercy. But who says that your feelings of awakening the mercy is also truthful? Maybe you didn't get there also. Maybe the awakening itself has to be truthful. And you want to reach to the levels awakening of Hashem's emes, Hashem's truth. How do we do that? For that, says the Alter Rebbe, the advice is to give tzedakah. Because when you act in such a way to give someone else, and as we said before, you give tzedakah, you're giving it truthfully, because it's not about you, it's about a recipient. Recipient receives it truthfully. That act triggers a similar act from Hashem in you. However, this arousal of God's great compassion also needs to be done in truth. But even when it is true in mortal terms, it is your truth. I'm doing the best I can, which is beautiful. However, how by means of relative truth can one arouse supernal compassion from the truth of God? For that, says the Alter Rebbe, the advice is to give tzedakah. The solution recommended for this is to practice the attribute of charity, which is the attribute of compassion for he who has nothing of his own. To revive the spirit of the lowly. And the arousal from below elicits an arousal from above. Whatever we do here triggers a similar reaction above. God rouses those who sleep and awakens those who slumber. Bidding, he rouses his great compassion and the supernal attribute of kindness which are concealed, so that they emerge from concealment into manifestation and into the great illumination, so that a man is illuminated with the light of life, with the truth of God unto the world. And now the Alter Rebbe explains this is why the verse says, Ziru tzedakah, plant tzedakah. Why use the term planting in charity? Says the Alter Rebbe, just like planting, what happens when you plant? You take a seed and you plant it in the ground. What grows? Something exponentially greater grows, a tree, branches, flowers, fruits that give fruits forever more. This is something totally not what you planted. So tzedakah, the idea of tzedakah is the same thing. You do your tzedakah right here, but what it does, what it creates, is that great godly truth that is revealed within you, the gift that Hashem gives you. That's like what happens when you plant in the seed. You awaken the essence and the power, the potential power of the essential power that is in that seed is not triggered. And that's why he calls the tzedakah as planting. This then is the meaning of the idiom of sowing related to charity, as in the verse with which this epistle opened, he who sows charity, or as in the verse, sow for yourself for charity. Latzmiach emes elyon emes Hashem. One thereby causes the supernal truth, the truth of God, to sprout. Just as a plant that sprouts reveals that which was previously sown. And especially, says the Rebbe, when you give the tzedakah, what the Alter Rebbe collected then for the people in the Holy Land. ובפרט בצדוקה וחסד של אמס שעושים עם ארץ הקודש תיבונה וזיכרונן במהרה בימינו אמן. This is achieved especially through acts of charity and true kindness that are done for the benefit of the Holy Land. May it be built and established speedily in our days, amen. L'kayim asher kosov emes me'eretz titzmach. Thereby realizing the verse, truth shall sprout forth from the land. Where land alludes both to the land of Israel, here below, and to the Sephir of Malchus above, which is the source of the neshamas and source of blessing in this world in general. Al yedei zriyas hatzdaka ba, by sowing charity in it, v'chesed v'rachamim rabim anesafim v'nekotim l'seichel, and the kindness and great compassion that are gathered into it and gleaned in it. Correspondingly, they arouse the supreme graces that are hidden and concealed. As it is written, how great is your kindness which you have hidden. So that the land is established and set up firmly. Both Eretz Yisrael and the sphere of Malchus of Atzilus must be buttressed. The latter because of its descent in order to serve as a source of created beings that are lower than the world of Atzilus. And of this it is written, through tzedakah shall you be firmly established, referring to the establishment of the congregation of Israel here below, as well as to its spiritual counterpart above, the sphere of Malchus of Atzilus, which is also known by the same name, the congregation of Israel. And this is the end of this letter. And by giving tzedakah and doing the mitzvahs, we should merit that very soon we'll have the establishment of Eretz Yisrael completely with the coming of Mashiach very soon, amen. A wonderful day. We shall continue tomorrow with the next letter in the Igeret Kodesh.